Our next author tonight is Caitlin Claire, Diehl. Okay. Caitlin Claire Diehl writes coming-of-age stories for every age. She is the author of the young adult fantasy novel First Daughter, first in the trilogy of the Web Weaver Chronicles. Reviewers praise it as an excellent read, hard to put down, and that there are some steamy sex scenes too. Can you bring me the book, please? No, I'm just kidding. She is also the author of the groundbreaking novel In the Name of Love, the true to life, inspiring story of a young woman's recovery from sex abuse and her healing journey towards a life filled with love. Readers call it a sensitive and moving read. Her latest work is nonfiction, a fun and practical look at sex and relationships entitled Loving Sex, Straight Talk for Straight Girls. Caitlin has an MA in counseling psychology. Before turning to writing full-time, she worked as a counselor and writing instructor.
I feel like I'm hiding behind the lamp over here. Hi everybody, nice to see you. Is this close enough? Can you guys hear me in the back? Okay, great. So, we're talking about sex. I hope that won't make anybody too uncomfortable.
There's no pictures.
There are no pictures, unfortunately. Brad was very disappointed. I started this book because my husband is here with me tonight, and I have a daughter going off to college this year, and I had really wanted to feel like I could prepare her for what she might experience when she was there, but I felt like she would not want me to sit down and talk to her about any of these things, being a teenager, as if any of you have any teenagers in your life, you know. So I just thought, okay, I will just write down everything that I think is important. And I realized along the way that I'm just one person with one sort of set of experiences, and I wanted the book to be broad for anyone, other people besides just my daughter. So in writing it, I opened it up to friends, family. I went on social media, anybody who felt like they had a story to tell that might be helpful, interesting, educational, informational to young women headed off into their life somewhere. So the book kind of has three different elements to it. One is just my own personal idiosyncratic opinion about kind of life according to Caitlin. There are also stories from other women, ages 20 through 70, who contributed something, kind of their own personal experience and personal opinion. And then I've interwoven things with just statistics from the Kinsey Institute about sort of what just facts about human sexuality. And the book is personal, and I called it Straight Talk for Straight Girls, and I did not want to leave out girls who were bi or questioning or gay. It's just that the book was so idiosyncratic to my own experience, and I'm straight, so that's all I felt like I could write about. Though there is a chapter on sexual preference and exploring and questioning where you might be, but most of the book is really for girls who are in relationships or thinking about being in relationships with men. Let's see, is there anything else I want to say about it? It's very practical, and I'm going to read a little bit so you can kind of see where I'm coming from. The other thing I wanted to mention is about the title, Loving Sex. I was very excited about that title because for me, I really wanted to focus on both the love aspect, you know, that when you're in a relationship, hopefully that there's love there and connection and the beauty that comes with that. But what people who didn't know me heard was a, hey, love and sex, which is okay too, because I would hope that my daughter and other women would feel comfortable in expressing that aspect of themselves. So that both those aspects of the book are there. And I also wanted to point out again, the book is short, so it's not the definitive word on human sexuality. But the people who have read it, both young and mothers or grandmothers or people who have nieces that they've given it to, say it's a fun and easy book to read, and brings up a lot of thought-provoking questions, and it's helpful for parents to start a dialogue with their teens, basically, if they want to. And the 20-somethings who have bought it just have liked to read it. They just didn't want to talk about it with their parents. So I'm going to be reading a short section from the first chapter. And the first chapter is called Becoming Sexually Active. And the book doesn't start with the presumption about whether or not you are sexually active or aren't. It kind of speaks to anybody who's just sort of thinking and exploring that aspect of their lives. And this section is called Flowers, Candlelight, and Bodily Fluids. I'm scaring people. I'm sorry. So, you feel desire. You have a prospect in mind. But is it sex you really want? There is quite a difference between romance and sex, though the two can coexist quite happily. Romance movies show the hearts and flowers aspect of relationships, the emotional expression of love and tenderness. If there is naked sex, it's beautiful and gentle, or steamy and passionate. That's what makes many young women melt, and what many hope for when embarking on their first sexual relationship. When many young women imagine a sexual relationship, what they are really longing for is love and romance, the feeling of being cherished and desired. In romance movies, if a guy brings flowers, it means he really cares. In real life, romantic gestures may or may not indicate genuine feeling. Even when a guy really cares, the language of romance doesn't necessarily translate well into the language of sex. The language of romance and the language of sex are two different dialects. The sweaty and grunty reality of sexual activity, even when there is genuine affection, doesn't always match candlelight fantasies. For example, I'm here to tell you that bodily fluids, sweat, semen, and vaginal secretions all have an odor, and that odor is different for each person. Sexual chemistry usually means you won't be repulsed by and likely will enjoy the scent of your sex partner. But since movies don't usually do smell-o-vision, you should be prepared for that dimension. People also pass gas during sex. Sad, but true. That also smells. Furthermore, those smells are wafting from private parts that look funny and have unfortunate names, either too clinical or appallingly crude. However, if you can't say penis, you shouldn't be messing around with one, and that goes for your vagina too. Hair is also a factor. Long hair gets tangled up in zippers and clothing and trapped in kissing mouths. Close contact with pubic hair also leaves stray hairs in your mouth. Scruffy faces are quite prickly. Beards can be soft or coarse, and mustaches can poke into your nose. Unwaxed men have varying amounts of hair on their chests and abdomens, and some also grow it on their backs and backsides. Women, too. Is this a turn on or a turn off? You decide. Being comfortable with noise is also a must for engaging in sex, and I don't mean talking, though that would be great, too. Right now in the United States, if a movie couple is going to have sex, and the movie is to receive a PG-13 rating, no sex noises are allowed. And you know how I know this? I learned this from the Twilight movies. So there. That is a far cry from real life, pun intended. Noises you might make or hear during sex include moans, gasps, sighs, crying out with pleasure, crying tears because moved or frustratingly disappointed, laughter with each other rather than at each other, I hope, The occasional ouch, as well as words of encouragement or direction, like harder, faster, slower, softer, over here, not there, and what in God's name are you doing? Sexual activities is embodied activity. While there is also a mental and emotional component to sex, in order to be sure you can deal with the body part, haha, I recommend asking yourself some earthy questions. First, do I know how my body smells when it's clean and when it's not? Do I like how my partner smells? How do I feel about bodily functions? And lastly, am I saying yes to sex when what I really want is romance? So, I hope I didn't make anyone else too uncomfortable. This is a really helpful book, I've been told, for young women, and I recommend it for 16 and up. If people are already sexually active in their teens, then this is also a great book. Although I will have to say, after every reading I've done, I've had women in their 50s come up to me and say, I still confuse sex and romance. So it's good for any age. So thank you.